And welcome. I'm glad that you all are choosing to be here today. So the title of our gathering today, at least through our YouTube live stream, is Freedom from Appearances Through Direct Experiencing Without Attachment. And this is a wholesome and noble and worthwhile way to engage not only with our own mind and our own human experience, but also to engage concerning everyone and everything. And in Buddhism, we call this emphasis, or the teachings, the guidances related to this, the Dhamma. So we can say that this is a gathering of the Sangha concerned with the Dhamma that is supported by and really a continuation of the Buddha and the Buddha mind within ourselves. So when we come to a gathering like this, whether it's live and in person and happening right now, or whether we watch the recording, and that's our now, we show up with this Buddha mind, this meditation mind, this willingness to certainly experience thoughts and experience all kinds of different phenomena that come up in the body and in the mind, but we not to get stuck, not to get trapped by any of that or led along by any of that, but rather we come back to the meditation mind, we come back to this opening, to direct experiencing. And that gives us, through that direct experiencing, without grasping, without attachment onto whatever in particular arises in terms of mental phenomena or phenomena of the body, it gives us this access to freedom, and especially freedom from appearances, freedom from getting lost in what appears. And that can take many different forms. So if it is a storm outside, if it is, weather that we don't like, that's just an appearance. That's a temporary expression of phenomena, but ultimately, it's temporary. So we don't get lost in our depression. We're free from our depression. We're free from our anxiety about lightning or thunder because we're not stuck in that appearance. And also, we may feel a sense of, well, I like when it storms. I love when it storms. I want it to storm all the time. And then we're in a state of suffering because that storm is temporary, even though we enjoy it when it comes up. So rather than relying on those appearances and being trapped by them, we come back to, we stay with, we enter into direct experiencing. And the most accessible avenues for direct experiencing for us as human beings is going to be the seeing faculty or the hearing faculty or the experiencing of breathing. And so it puts us in this easy way to enter into meditation at any moment, in any place, and it gives us this freedom, this accessibility to freedom. So we'll start today with a few moments of meditation, then we'll go into a Dhamma talk, a Dhamma reading, similar to the one we had yesterday. I also want to bring up that one of the ways that we can donate, one of the ways that we can support the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha, and to support the community, okay, is by liking and commenting on our YouTube live streams, on our recordings, because this kind of activity is not normal for YouTube, and it's very difficult for these recordings and these events to be spread out and kind of propagated for other people. So one of the ways that we can help and support is if we do participate and we know about the YouTube channel, etc., we can go there, we can leave a like, we can leave a comment later on, and this really supports our sangha to grow and for people to have access to these wholesome events that are concerned with the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. So just something to consider, and better to put it here at the start of our recording because not everyone will be able to stay for even 5 minutes or 10 minutes. So it's something to consider. So let's begin with a little bit of meditation. So let's find a somewhat comfortable. We're not going to be completely comfortable mentally or physically, but that's okay. There's a certain kind of comfort we can find even in a little bit of uncomfortableness. So let's try to find that comfortable, stable position for our body. I like to sit cross-legged. I like to feel my back being supported. And if you have too much or too little energy, you can use the practice of laying down. You can use the practice of standing. So don't be shy about that. If the energy is too low or the energy is too high, you can lay down or you can stand. Just be comfortable and be present. And in that starting point of getting comfortable and getting present, really notice different places in the body that stand out. And it could be a place in the mind that stands out as a point of tension or a point of, it's not fully comfortable. And give that quality of kindfulness to that spot in the mind or that in the body. So relax it and open it and be vulnerable with it. Begin to notice that the breathing is happening. And that this body, it's not like some solid idea of ourselves, but actually that this body is really a happening. And that this body doesn't know anything intellectually at all. This body's kind of vulnerable. Maybe it's a little bit scared. Why there's tension that builds up, right? So bringing the mind home to the body and really offering that quality of kindfulness, kindful presence, kind, wise awareness to the body. Moment by moment, noticing and experiencing this, entering into direct experiencing, moment by moment, breath by breath. So that whatever you see, whatever you experience, whatever you may get pulled into or involved with during meditation, it is natural to be okay within the scope of just being, just breathing, just experiencing. And when we feel this pull, or we get kind of zoomed in or zoomed out, entangled in something, the breath is there, the heart beating is there, the kind of open vulnerability of the body just being here can be a source to bring us back, bring us home. If our meditation is very relaxed and enjoyable, but also there's this sense of pointedness to your mind, directness of the mind, then you know you're practicing properly. Relaxed, but also this active concentration, almost effortless concentration. can allow the awareness or the attention to naturally settle on the heart beating or on the breathing, the whole body, this experience of it sitting here and being here. But try to allow that concentration to settle onto a natural happening so that you don't need to try, but just experiencing. And when we have the disturbance or the falling off in our meditation, this is a very important point where we learn how to settle in just being rather than trying to do something again, chasing after some practice. We just notice and once again settle. And of course, we all have this, we want to have a great meditation, something like that. But actually, when we have those barrier or disruption point, try not to see that as anything at all, but especially not as a problem. Just another spot for allowing and unbinding to take place naturally on its own. It can be said that the wise meditation practice is a way of untangling ourselves from ourselves. this ego arises, these judgments arise, this self-experience arises, and rather than it being a problem, it is the end of the string that, when pulled on, releases the knot. And in that way, our difficult self-reflections or entanglements that arise in meditation are exactly what we need to be free from ourselves, to be free from the impersonator, to experience our true nature as love, as forgiveness, as boundless, ever new nature. We may find it quite lovely to bring a gentle smile onto our face and to experience that offering of smiling to ourselves and to the Sangha and to everything. And as we smile to everything, we allow those difficult parts of ourselves or others or situations that we've experienced to receive that smile and to know and to feel into that smile as an expression of love, as an expression of childlike innocence and friendliness to everything, especially to that self-conflicted part of ourselves, that judgmental, criticizing aspect. We can allow our bodies to become very still, even if only for a few moments. Very still and relaxing any muscles in the body, any tension. Relaxing the whole body. Relaxing the whole mind. So we'll now begin with our Dharma reading from Sun Yun and the book Cloud and Water. Firstly, starting off with the poem. I don't know if it's a poem as much as it is a poetic expression of the teachings. And really, we try to listen in such a way that is similar to our meditation. A good doctor always finds out the cause of sickness first. Anger is quite harmful to someone who is sick. Upon careful examination, a doctor then makes a correct diagnosis. With the correct prescription, we can heal ourselves of our ignorance. A good doctor always finds out the cause of a sickness first. Anger is quite harmful to someone who is sick. Before a doctor can heal a patient, they have to find out the cause of the sickness so that they can give the right prescription. When someone is sick, anger can deteriorate their situation. If the patient can stay calm, they heal much faster. The Buddha gave us 84,000 ways to heal the 84,000 troubles. For someone who is greedy, the Buddha teaches the meditation on filthiness. In contemplating all kinds of filth, naturally our greed will not arise. For someone who has a lot of hatred, the Buddha teaches the meditation on compassion. With the arising of the compassionate mind, anger will not arise. For someone who is ignorant, the Buddha teaches the meditation on dependent origination or conditionality. We can then understand that all phenomena arise out of dependent origination. When we understand conditionality, we see phenomena as so much flying dust and dirt, and there will be no place for ignorance. Now, a little bit of brief clarification about this perspective or this approach is that when we experience something and we don't recognize causality, we don't recognize it as an expression of causes and conditions, we may fixate on a certain aspect of it, and that leads us to a tangent of belief. And, it's quite direct to say stories and ideas about separate self-entities. When we recognize conditionality, which is very literal and very scientific and very direct right here and now, we recognize that, just coming back to the body, the reason that this body is here right now is because of causes and conditions. This body is not self-arising or existing as a separate self-entity. In fact, there's no such thing as that. This body is the planet Earth, the atmosphere, the temperature in the room, right? And all of these elements, fine and subtle and gross and everything coming together. So we move from ignorance to an understanding of this thought arises because of this. right? Or this experience arises because of this and that and this and that and this and that, these causal chains, so that there's not a separate self-entity on which to make a story of good or evil, right? To create these absolutes, but actually it is interdependent arising, interdependent causal arising. So we can then understand that all phenomena arise out of dependent origination. When we understand conditionality, we will see phenomena as so much flying dust and dirt, and there will be no place for ignorance. We will see through the expressions of separate self-entities, of the solidity of things existing separate from anything else. And we see what? We see everything, which is beyond duality. For someone whose mind is scattered, the Buddha teaches the mindfulness of breathing to improve concentration. For someone who is self-centered, the Buddha teaches the contemplation of selflessness. These are the 5 meditations for settling the mind. Okay? So these 5 meditations, for someone who is greedy, and, you know, from my experience in America, my working perspective that I have now is that we have a culture that has replaced virtue with greed, right? The virtue of greed, of accumulation of wealth as much as you can, right? Greed is a virtue. So this may be very apt for people who are influenced by that culture, which is many of us, right? I know I am. So for someone who is greedy, the Buddha teaches the meditation on filthiness, disgustingness, right? Think of this, what happens to the human body. Think about the feces, the pus, the bones, the ligaments, the blood, you know, and the reality of situations in war zones and what that looks like, right? Filthiness, disgustingness. And when we feel that, we don't have a clinging, we don't have a chasing after disgustingness, right? It's like if we go into an environment and it is disgusting, it's trash, there's feces, there's urine, there's things aren't taken care of very well, we certainly don't feel greedy, right? That sense of greed doesn't arise in that environment. So we can bring up those recollections, not to kind of pollute our mind, but actually to weaken this energy of greediness in ourselves, to halt it. So that's one for greedy. For someone who has a lot of hatred or a lot of anger, the Buddha teaches the meditation on compassion. So the meditation on compassion is that we wish for suffering to end. We don't want suffering to continue in ourselves, right? We wish for that pain and that misery and that suffering and that, those disasters to come to an end. And all of us, even very angry people, they don't want to suffer. They don't want their loved ones to suffer, their pet or what have you. So when we bring up that energy, that mind of compassion, seeing that suffering, wishing for that suffering to end, we won't feel so entrapped by our anger, our hatred. Now, for someone who is ignorant, so for someone who is maybe, they are lost in self-fixation. They are lost in the notion of all these different separate self-entities and all these different politics, and they're obsessed with eating things that are not on their plate because they're just lost. They're like in a cloud, like in a fog, so they can't see their own plate and they're just reaching around for everything, right? And they're just making up all kinds of different things. It's like they're in a dream all the time. They can't be practical. So for someone who is ignorant, the Buddha teaches the meditation on dependent origination or conditionality. And that is to notice, to look at, to examine, and we can examine it mentally and we can examine it physically, this understanding that because this is, that arises. And it breaks down, or it goes back to the root of our direct experiencing, so that we're not lost on that chain of appearances, right? So why is the body like this right now? Because of the environment in the room. Is the environment in the room a intellectual story about myself and others and my life? So we break the chain and we bring it back, right? So when someone's hyper fixated on politics or, some kind of social dynamic, some kind of right and wrong, and of course we can help in all kinds of different ways. We should be engaged. But when someone is so focused on out there that they can't be where they are and then do practical work, when we point to these aspects, these elements of direct experiencing, it breaks that chain from being all the way out there, and it brings us to right here. So for someone who is ignorant, the Buddha teaches that meditation on conditionality. And when we understand conditionality, so when we really understand that, my self-experience that I'm having right now is not just built up by a story or a narrative or words and phrases, but is literally directly right now interdependent with the atmosphere in this room and the state of the ground holding up this building. And this building, buildings fall down all the time. Earthquakes happen all the time. That this environment is a part of this self-experience that I'm having, that I can't actually separate it, that it's arbitrary to separate it. So when we connect with that, when we experience that deeply, when we understand that in a certain sense, then we will see that phenomena, so these thoughts, these physical sensations in the body, changes in temperature, things like that, and the self-experience of the body, the self-identification of the body mentally, is so much flying dust and dirt. It's cause and effect. It's happenings. But it's not these separate self-entities that are some kind of story body. Because when we fixate on that story in a way that's non-practical and not about helping, and when we're not really watchful over our intentions, we're just making things up. We're creating arbitrary distinctions. And when we have a deeper understanding of conditionality, when we have a deeper understanding through our experience of cause and effect, now it's not that we reject everything, everything's nothing, no. But we know how to use without attachment. And that means we know how to use in the right way. We know how to use with wisdom. We know how to use with compassion, rather than just making things up and kind of being these jugglers. So when we understand conditionality, we will see phenomena as so much flying dust and dirt, and there will be no place for ignorance. There will be no place for a lack of seeing into interbeing, seeing into impermanence, seeing into non-self. And that's experiential, not intellectual. So that experience informs then how we move forward intellectually, socially. For someone whose mind is scattered, the Buddha teaches the mindfulness of breathing to improve concentration. So when our mind is just jumping around all the time, we're very limited in terms of what we can do, where we can go, what we can receive. So a part of the initial training in getting onto this path, if we have a scattered mind especially, is to focus on our breathing. And when the mind drifts off, we come back, we focus on our breathing. For someone who is self-centered, the Buddha teaches the contemplation of selflessness. And so we can also say, I will say, that this is like the contemplation on community, the contemplation on generosity, the contemplation on doing for others, serving others, the contemplation on this body and this mind and these materials in my life is not just about me. And then how do we move forward from that? Because when you have an experience that is has many different selves in it. There's a natural state of selflessness that comes up because other people are involved. And unless you're really confused, you don't think that those people are your slaves or something like that, or your minions, right? These are human beings. And that sense of selflessness, or that expansion of the self, right, it happens naturally. And so getting involved in social work, getting involved in generosity, being involved in community, it helps us to feel into this sense of selflessness. And then if we have the good conditions, then we look more deeply in how it relates to conditionality, right? What is this self? And asking that question, bringing up the doubt of this legitimacy of self-centeredness. Oh, me, I. Well, what is this I? And you break the chain immediately. And this stuff is not about ego, or like, this person has issues with greed. This person has issues with hatred. This person has issues with a mind that's scattered. It's not about ego. It's about medicine for sicknesses. It's about a case-by-case, moment-by-moment, working with the situation. And that's what the great masters and the teachers do. They're not trying to preach some kind of dogma. They're just trying to clear up the confusion so that you can see your natural mind, your true mind, your original nature. So these are the 5 meditations for settling the mind. Any questions about any 5 of these meditations, or any unique points to bring up?
Sangha, yeah, I enjoyed the meditation very much, and I'm enjoying. Sorry, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, you're clear. You're loud and clear. It's great.
Sorry. And I'm enjoying the teaching very much. And a couple of things came to my mind. Sorry, I'm trying to speak louder. When you were guiding the meditation, you used the word, I can't remember. It was something like imposter. When you said that, I kind of smiled, because on the weekend I was doing a training on masks. And I thought to myself, oh, the imposter is one part, one mask. And then just about 5 minutes ago, you were talking about there are many selves, so many conditions going on, so many selves. And I was thinking of, like, for example, for you, like Bhante the monk, the son, the brother, I don't know, the uncle, the social worker, the entrepreneur, the teacher, the traveler, etc., etc., etc. So, or we could say the angry self, or the kind self. So everything, I like the word everything. It's not like just one ego, it's like all these different selves. I was just thinking that.
Okay, thank you. That's really wonderful, Michelle. That's very insightful, and and how we can kind of touch into all these different cells, and then, or selves and cells too. I mean, where's the self? Is it in this cell or that cell? But that there's also this true self, this original nature. And this is the unique Buddhist quality, is that we're talking about this original nature that does not in any way come from outside. It's not from a God, it's not from the Buddha. The Buddha was just the one who recognized this original nature, saw it clearly, and then, thankfully shared about it. And we get to be in the kind of wake of that wave. And how freeing it is, and how it makes ourselves more expansive and more creative and more possible, so many more possibilities, because we were able to face and go through all of these alternative selves and transform them to be for all, to help, to serve, not to be trapped, but to free continuously and limitlessly. And the implications for social work and social justice and creative responses to public need, such as housing and food and resources and teachings, all these things, peacemaking, it's really exciting. Because when we can break down from that kind of, those gates or those guidelines that we have about who we can be and what we can do and who we truly are, and just open that up, there's so much more possibility there for healing ourselves and for healing the world. So thank you. I really loved that, Michelle. All right. Anyone else have some interesting point or question to share? So let's continue. In ancient China, there was a Chan master, Wu Qi, who gave this prescription for us to heal ourselves. A section of a good gut, a piece of compassionate heart, we've got a unique word here. Oh my goodness. Taels. Taels. I think it's something, it must be like a certain small amount, a certain weight measurement, so a certain amount. A section of a good gut, a piece of compassionate heart, 2 small amounts of gentleness, 3 grains of justice, and don't forget integrity, a piece of directness, 10 nuggets of filial respect, 1 gram of honesty. Use all your good karma and all the conveniences you can get. Okay? And there's a commentary here which I think will explain it a lot more. But the beautiful part that stands out very clearly to me right away, we don't have to be perfect. It's like every time this idea of helping comes up, we're immediately exhausted because this idea of being perfect is in there, that we're going to fix everything or we're going to fix ourselves. But it's just a section of a good gut is enough. A piece of a compassionate heart is enough, right? 2 small amounts of gentleness, 3 grains of justice, and don't forget integrity. A little piece of directness, 10 nuggets of filial respect, which is meaning respecting and caring for and serving our ancestry, spiritual ancestry and familial ancestry. 1 gram of honesty, just a little bit of honesty. Use all your good karma. Use all the good effects that you have and all the conveniences you can get. Use everything in your life. If we can use this prescription in our lives, we can gain a lot of ease. Ease and joy, easiness, openness. Things flow, things go easily. We're not stressed about, I need to go to sleep. Ease and joy, rest, relax. Find a way to enjoy. If we can use this prescription in our lives, we gain a lot of ease. Upon careful examination, a doctor then makes a correct diagnosis. With the correct prescription, we can heal ourselves of our ignorance. It is only upon careful examination that a doctor can make a correct diagnosis and give the correct prescription. Right? So our path starts out with this examination, this willingness to examine, to look, to be with, to experience. To examine, to face it. I remember my first foray into the spiritual path, like grounded, with intensive meditation. And before I went into that, I was so mentally ill and sick and unstable and confused and suffering so deeply, and coping with drugs and alcohol and all these unskillful behaviors. This is back in 2013, 2014. And that initial diving into this Zen Buddhist tradition, and it was very intense. It wasn't Plum Village tradition, Thich Nhat Hanh, with that gentle openness. And I really could have used that at that time. I didn't know about it. But it was just go and sit and face the wall and sit and feel the pain of your body and face your mind and detach And that examination, even though I didn't really know what I was doing and I wasn't prepared to go into that space of myself, somehow I had those conditions to examine myself, and I learned that I could be free from myself. I experienced impermanence by examining the mind that was so intensely me and self and fear and in this dreamlike experience of difficulty, and then experiencing the impermanence of it. But unless I examined, I wouldn't have able to come up with any diagnosis. So we have to examine first. We have to find, help, people that can examine us and not be shy about people giving their examination, because that's really helpful. One of the teachings that we receive as monks is one of the best things we can do is if we go to stay with a community or with a teacher at a temple, before we go, we say, dear teacher, dear brother, dear sister, I've been here for this period of time, and if there's any wrongs that I've done, I apologize, and I request that you will give me some feedback, some insight, some examination about my practice so that I can improve moving forward. So that examination is really helpful to developing the prescription for ourselves. So it is only upon careful examination that a doctor can make a correct diagnosis and give the correct prescription. The 6 paramitas, so that is the 6 perfections, so perfected states of mind, and actions as well, ways of being. That is dana, sila, ksanti, virya, dhyana, and prajna. So that's generosity. Generosity is a perfection. Practicing generosity is perfect in the action of it. Morality, which also Master Thich Nhat Hanh will talk about morality as smriti, or morality as mindfulness. So mindfulness is a perfection, is a perfect action, to be mindful. Patience. So to be patient is a perfect action. Vigor, diligence, staying with it, staying diligent, virya, perfect action. Concentration, to be in a state of concentration, which is like a state of absorption. It's just that concentration becomes continuous in itself. And then finally, prajna, or wisdom, right? Insight, perfection. So the 6 paramitas of Buddhism deliver sentient beings from the 6 kinds of sickness. Generosity delivers us from greed. Morality delivers us from wrongdoing, and we can also say mindfulness delivers us from wrongdoing. But especially this prioritization of being good and not being bad delivers us from wrongdoing. Tolerance delivers us from hatred. Diligence delivers us from laziness. Concentration delivers us from a scattered mind. And wisdom delivers us from ignorance. These many prescriptions teach us how to be rid, to finish, to be rid of these poisons of greed, hatred, and delusion. They deliver us from delusion and help us to attain enlightenment. Okay, any questions or sharing? All right, so today let's finish with a little bit more meditation, okay? So if you need to, stand up and just make sure that there's no tension or tightness in your body. Maybe stretch out your leg for a moment. And then we can bring ourselves into our meditation position. And yeah, without too much guidance, we can find our breathing. We can find our body being. We can come across the safety and openness of this space and this moment, and really just enjoy just being. And if anything hooks you, anything pokes you, come back to the body sitting here breathing. Come back to that wide open, bright mind. Okay, let's finish today with a sharing of the merit. We can all bring our hands together and we can unmute our microphones. May all the merits that we have done till now
May all the merits that we have done till now
be dedicated and shared out towards all beings.
be dedicated and shared out towards all beings.
May all beings rejoice and share in our merits.
May all beings rejoice and share in our merits.
May it be,
May it be,
may it be,
may it be,
may it truly, truly be.
may it truly be.
And we can do sadhu together, harmonizing and enjoying. Deep breath. Sadhu. 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 We can all take a deep bow to the Sangha, to the Buddha, to the Dhamma. Okay, dear Sangha, thank you so much for being here with me, and see you again soon. And keep in mind that we're having some of our community members host daily silent meditation practices. So if you're in the Discord, you can keep a lookout for that. Even if you just come in for a few minutes, 15 minutes or so, that's a great practice. And the other thing is a way to support and help our community to grow is when we come across, if you know where the YouTube videos are, the live streams that we do, they're shared on YouTube. And if you can leave a like and leave a comment on those videos, it really helps the algorithm to pick them up and to share them. And because of the kind of content that this is, because I don't make dancing, karate, I could make dancing, karate, monk, Dhamma propagation videos, but because I don't do that, it's very difficult for YouTube to spread this. But if you do help with leaving a like, leaving a comment, I think it will go a long way for more people to come across our community and get connected, okay? Thank you, everyone. Okay, take care. Thank you.